Yo, what's good, everyone? We are live, and I've got a really nice topic to talk about today. So I hope you've got your popcorn, got your watermelon, got your Kool-Aid, whatever you like to munch on during the day, and get ready to talk about some boxing. I also got a special guest joining us today who I'll introduce here in just a second. But before I do that, I just want to give a special thanks for all the people who have recently subscribed to the channel, showing all the love and appreciation. Really do appreciate it. It really goes a long way, keeps me motivated, and I just want to take the quick moment of time to give you guys that special thing. So, you guys see the title of the live stream. I keep messing up the schedule. I know maybe some of you guys were kind of confused about the time because I'm overseas and I'm always like one day ahead, one day behind. So I apologize. I'll try to fix that because I know a lot of you guys like to stand by in the chat before I go live, and maybe the timing has been confusing. So I just need to continue to remind myself. So yeah, we're going to talk about welterweights today, and it's time to change gears. We've been talking about Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder quite a bit, and I thought, let's get some real boxing talk going. Let's try to talk about some positivity. Let's grind it up, chop it up, and get real about this welterweight division, which is one of the hottest divisions in boxing, always has been and always will be. So WJ Luckett is the first one in the live chat, and he's jumping in here right away saying Duran Ennis is the future of the welterweight division. That's a bold statement, a very respectful statement, and trust me, WJ, we're going to be talking about it. So keep that name in mind, and we'll see if it comes up in conversation between myself and the guest today. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring in the guest who's joining the conversation. This particular person is a content creator himself. He does a lot of live streaming when he does a lot of game live streaming, I should say. And he has many different platforms that he goes through. If you guys do like gaming, I'm sure he'll let you guys know how to get connected with him. But he's also a huge boxing fan, and he's a person that has joined my live streams recently and has found me on YouTube and reached out to me and said, "Yo, Divine, I love it how you break it up with boxing, and I'd love to get on your live stream and chop it up with you and just make it a little bit more interesting." And I think it's always interesting when you have another voice on the panel. And so I'll go ahead and bring him into the conversation right now and let him say hi for himself. And this is PlattboyGaming representing. So go ahead and do a quick introduction if you want, bro, and just let the people know about your passion of boxing and what you're looking forward to talk about today.
Yo, how's everybody doing, man? This is PlattboyGaming. I'm a gaming content creator across Facebook, Twitch, and recently YouTube. I'm a huge fan of boxing. I'm excited about what's going on right now. I'm kind of in agreement with him on the Ennis being the future of the welterweight division. The only thing that I think is it's going to be a while before he gets like a legacy fight with the top 4 or 5 guys. And I'm just taking the time out to say thanks to Divine Sense for giving me an opportunity just to chop it up and talk boxing, man. What's up, Chad? How y'all doing? Angie, I see you, baby. Hometown lady right there.
Yeah, no doubt. Angie, thanks for stopping by. Hopefully you're a boxing fan. If you're not, you're going to be one after you stick around long enough and listen to myself and PlattboyGaming talk about the welterweight division. As I said, one of the strongest divisions, if not the strongest division in boxing. It's always been a personal favorite division of mine for all the years I've been talking about boxing. When I was in my younger days, my teenage days, when I did amateur boxing, I was around that weight class, 140 to 147. So, it hits the heart, and I'm always watching the welterweight fights. So normally what I like to do is just kind of give everybody a refresher of who's the champions right now currently, talk about the rankings within the welterweight division. Makes it a little bit easier to kind of get into this topic. Now, we can, for the sake of argument, throw in some junior welterweights, or if we want, or even some super welterweights, or AKA junior middleweights. I mean, it gets weird with the juniors and light stuff, but I'll try to keep it as welterweight as possible, which is 147 pounds.
We see he'll sound like he cut out. Yeah, I think he cut out real quick. Can you guys still hear me?
I
Okay, there we
apologize
go.
for that, guys. I think I lost connection there for a moment. So let me know to get back, man, because Frank's in the chat. I gotta get back. Cool. All right, Angie's still here too. All right, let's get it rocking. So I'm not sure where off before I lost connection, but I was going through the rankings of the welterweight division. So I'll just go ahead and recap that real quickly. So we got, according to ESPN, we've got Terrence Crawford. They've got him ranked number 1. Earl Spence 2, Manny Pacquiao 3. Then they got Sean Porter, Keith Thurman, Virgil Ortiz, and then, of course, Ugas. They got him tied for 6th. So that's the ESPN rankings. I know Ring TV and other websites have their own rankings, but that's where it stands according to ESPN. Now let's go over the belts real quick so we can recap and understand who has the belts. So currently right now, we have Terrence. He's got the WBO. And we're going to talk about Terrence. Terrence is going to be the dark horse in this conversation today because he's holding on to that WBO title very tightly. And of course, we got Earl Spence sitting at number 2. He's got the IBF and WBC. He's got that big green belt. And we got Manny sitting at 3. He does not have any current belts that I know of at the welterweight division. And then we've got Ugas. He's got the WBA. Okay. And they've got him ranked at 6th, but he's got the WBA. Now, just for a little bit of a wild card at the junior welterweight division at 140, of course, we've got Josh Taylor. And Josh Taylor has all the belts in that division. And below him, they've got Jose Ramirez and Rigas Progias. So that's where we stand. Now, Platt Boy, going off that list right there, what name stands out the most if you were to pick, without getting into conversation, but just off that list, what's that one person that you'll throw to be the king of the welterweight division, or who do you think is going to be the next king in, let's say, 1 or 2 months' time?
The next, that's a hell of a question. But one thing about ESPN's ranking is like Crawford is their guy, so he's going to be number one, and he has one belt. Like Spence across the board should be number one, besides uh, WBO with Ugas. But it just baffles me how, like, if that's a pound for pound, it should be Spence over Crawford every time. My personal opinion. Uh, like Frank in the chat said, uh, just because, just the same thing I said. Frank just repeated that, and I'm Spence all the way. Like I see Spence for like 5 years, unless he moves up.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I agree with both. Well, Frank obviously stated the obvious and a very true statement. I'm glad you pointed that out, Frank. Yeah, ESPN is going to have, or they're going to show rather, their favoritism towards Crawford. So that's not a surprise. I just went for the quickest reference. I have ESPN up on my tab, so that's what I went off of. But I agree. I think that if it's my personal list, Spence is definitely number one. Um, so for me, if I were to, I think a fairer question, by the way, would have been, okay, who do you think is going to be the king of the welterweight division at the end of the year, or kicking off 2022 would probably be a more reasonable question. And I'm with you. I'm saying Earl Spence all the way, which means that he has to get Manny Pacquiao. He has to get past the Pac-Man. So I guess that leads into the next question, and you and I can talk about it a little bit and let the people in the chat agree or disagree, or we can agree to disagree. But let's see what happens. Who do you got with Spence and Pacquiao?
Uh, I'm going with Spence.
And tell me why.
I'm going with Spence. I think he has more versatility than Pacquiao in my eye. Uh, he can put you in a phone booth, no problem. He can box you, no problem. The only fault I see with Spence is maybe head movement, which Pacquiao punches from a bunch of different weird angles and has incredible foot speed and movement, and he's like a little jumping bean in the ring. He may be hard to catch for Spence, and he may not play. He might not mix it up with Spence, because I think that's where he'll make a mistake if he, jumps in and in the Spence's range. Like, it's going to be crazy, and they're both southpaw. That's another twist to it. Like, Pacquiao hasn't seen a southpaw fighter in years. I'm not sure how long. I know it's like, what, 9 years or something like that, something crazy. But
Yeah,
that
it's actually been 13 years, and
13
they
years.
pointed that out in the press conference. And yeah, so more than a decade since the last time Pacquiao saw a southpaw, and I think for Spence, it's maybe been, I think his last one was maybe 2016, so about 5 years. But
Right.
nonetheless, I mean, there's just not very many southpaws in general in the sport of boxing. And for those of you who don't know, I've already made 2 videos, a thorough breakdown and prediction of this fight, much more, I guess, quicker and easier to the point. If you want to go and watch that, it's on my channel. But there are a lot of different interesting points in this fight. And I think for whatever reason, maybe I'm not looking deep enough on YouTube or something, but I don't feel like enough people are talking about this fight. And it could be because, of course, the dark cloud that we've been talking about for such a long time, the Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury fiasco, maybe it's been clouding over some other fights. But I feel like this is a very, very intriguing fight because you have a very distinguished future Hall of Famer in Manny Pacquiao, and then you have a very solid, young, strong, hungry champion in Earl Spence. And it's kind of funny because Plattboy and I were behind the scenes before we went live, and I told him, if there's one person out there who I've betted against and have done prediction videos and said that he'll lose, and I was wrong, is Manny Pacquiao. He always figures out a way to win fights or prove me wrong. And if I can do prediction videos, if I do 50 prediction videos and it doesn't have Manny Pacquiao's name in it, I'm usually correct 90% of the time. But anytime it's Manny Pacquiao, he figures out a way to screw me over, other than the Floyd Mayweather fight, which I chose Mayweather and Mayweather won. But yeah, so
and
I feel like Pacquiao
rivalry
has that, that inner warrior that just comes out late in a fight. Yeah, the Joe Horn. I thought that fight was so ridiculous. I probably never talked about it, and I still don't think I've ever talked about that fight. Yeah, but he has that ability to like bring a warrior out, and he can be losing. When you look at Manny Pacquiao and his career, like you go back and you look at like the Morales trilogies and the Juan Manuel Marquez trilogies, and it's like so many times his opponents will get ahead of him in a fight, and you're like, okay, yeah, I guess Manny Pacquiao's met his match, and then he'll just flip it. He'll work his way back into the fight, and he did the same thing against Miguel Cotto, who I had Miguel Cotto win in that fight. I put big money on that fight. I was so confident that Miguel was going to be too much. I thought he was too big of a welterweight for Manny Pacquiao, and Miguel was winning the fight, and Manny Pacquiao just flips a switch and knocks Miguel Cotto down, and then that was the end of it.
Let me ask you this: where do you stand with
go ahead.
Pacquiao's punch resistance? Because Thurman didn't give us, we don't have a measuring stick with Thurman because he didn't hit him with many clean shots. So I'm worried of his punch resistance from the previous knockouts he endured. I think Spence is going to crack him.
Yeah, pretty much. When I look at the Thurman fight, yeah, here's the thing: is when I made my video about this fight, my prediction and breakdown video, I've actually made two, as I said. And in my part one, I used Keith Thurman as kind of like a loose comparison to Spence, in the sense that they both have similar hand speed, but one big difference is the power and the body punching ability. And what people have to understand about Spence is he has this absolutely excellent pedigree of boxing, of amateur boxing, being a 3-time national champion and a Golden Glove champion. And he is the epitome of what you would call a boxer puncher. And that's a very difficult person or difficult boxer to defeat. When they have the ability and the knowledge to actually outpoint you and outbox you, but they can also hurt you. And to answer your question, Manny Pacquiao has always had a chin. He's always had the ability to take big shots. I mean, he's to give him credit, he's fought a lot of bigger men than him.
Right.
You got to understand that Pacquiao started at like 126 or some shit. Okay, and he's worked his way up, and he's kind of solidified himself at 147, 150-ish. Okay, he's even smaller, in my opinion, than Mayweather is. But
yeah, I agree.
So he's developed this ability to fight bigger men and take and take their punches. And I agree with you. I don't think Keith Thurman had that absolute like cracking power to like really hurt Pacquiao. I do feel he did hurt Pacquiao though a few times. But there was definitely a few times, and you can usually tell when Pacquiao's hurt because he covers up.
Yeah, at one point I thought Thurman was the strongest welterweight though. Like before he became like big, Thurman was knocking boys out, man. And I mean, one punch knockouts. And then like when he became known, fighting the Sean Porters and the Josecito Lopez and all those guys, Danny Garcia, like you just didn't see that same snap he had from the earlier fights. But I know as the competition increases, you know, it'll be tougher fights. But you know, he needs to change his name from one time because he's not knocking out with one punch anymore.
Yeah, I mean, there's an old saying, and yeah, and there's an old saying in boxing that's been around for a very long time, and that's there's levels to this shit.
Exactly.
And that's just the reality. And, you know, he faced a guy in Manny Pacquiao, as I said, that, you know, he's just a veteran, man, you know, and he's just been in some massive wars, and he's built not only the what's the word for it, like the punching endurance, but he's also the durability. He's developed an immense durability to take some really vicious shots. And when you look at when he got knocked out by Marquez, that wasn't like a loaded up punch, really. It was just a perfectly timed punch landed. That hit him on the button. Right? Yeah, I mean, you can't write it up any better than that. So that's why this fight is so interesting, man, because although everything in my gut tells me that Spence is just younger, stronger, and has the ability to put damage on anybody, and I mean anybody at 147.
Yeah. Do you think it's 50-50?
The man that stands before him is not a guy who can, you know, who has a oh man, I say 60-40, man. I say 60-40 for Spence. And I hate to talk about age because, you know, I'm getting fucking older and I don't like people talking to me about age because I used to be an athlete and play sports and stuff like that. But
join the crowd,
Manny Pacquiao is not your normal 42-year-old.
Right.
Yeah. So, you know, but Manny Pacquiao is just special, you know, for 42 years old and still having the ability to go in the ring and fight, you know, a top welterweight in his prime. So as much as I don't want to talk about age, because I know it's a sensitive topic for some people, but look, man, I mean, this is boxing. This isn't ping pong. This isn't ice skating. This is fucking boxing. And there are two opinions, and I would like for people to put in the comment section on what you think. And this is a question for everybody. Do you think as you get older as a fighter, you have less punch resistance, or is it something that you can hold on to and that's like one of the last things to go? For me, I say that it depends, because some fighters, although they lose their hand speed and they lose their athletic ability, they get slower, their reactions are slower. Some fighters, the last two things that goes is their chin and their power, but everything else goes.
Yeah.
But then you have other fighters, as they get older, their punch resistance just goes downhill. Like Roy Jones Jr. As he got older, I was
just about to mention him.
He got hurt more often.
I was just about to mention Roy Jones.
So, WJ, he agreed with me. He says, yes. So WJ agrees with me. He says 60-40 as well. Frank says it's hard to beat a guy with a gray beard like Pac, but he may just be a silverback gorilla in the ring. See, C. Wood says power is the last thing to go, and resistance is relevant to your fitness. But if you ever had it, you never, or if you never had it, you never will. That's a fair point.
Look what Frank
That's from
Sparty
C. Wood.
says.
Yeah, I
Foreman
think
had
it
a
really
tougher
does
chin
depend on
at
the
50.
fighter.
Foreman had a tougher chin at 50 than he did at 25. Wow.
Yeah, Foreman had a tougher chin at 50 than he did at 25.
That's crazy.
That's kind of right, though. I mean,
Yeah, he
but
did.
Foreman
He
was just
did.
always a beast.
Yeah,
Foreman was
yeah.
always a beast.
You have less punch
I
resistance
mean,
as
when you
your
look
age.
back at the Muhammad Ali fight, I mean, the only reason why he lost that fight is sorry.
He says you have less punch resistance as your but as you age, your bones start to get older and start to deteriorate. I don't know. Foreman kind of is the anomaly with that, you know.
Yeah, that's what Leonard just said.
Leonard Thomas, yeah.
We got Hoplo Type back in the building. What's up, Hoplo Type? For those of you who don't know, Hoplo's been following me since the very beginning. What up, Divine? I think Spence should be the betting favorite, but Pac has a style that could be a problem. Yeah, I mean that's kind of like in a nutshell, solid analysis. Freddie Ruger, you're back. What's up? Freddie Ruger says it depends if Pac got old since his last fight. It happens quick in boxing. If the Pac that beat Thurman shows up, it's going to be a close battle. That's the thing with Pac, man. That's the thing with Pac. You just don't know what kind of Pacquiao that you're going to get. But when you look at most of his career, he's pretty consistent. He shows up to fight every time, and he gives it his all. Even when he's down in a fight, he figures out a way to get back into the fight. And really, the only fight that he wasn't like extraordinary or couldn't do what he normally does was against Mayweather. But I mean, that's not telling that much because most people look very ordinary against Mayweather. It's nothing against Pacquiao, but that's just the way it is.
WJ Luckett.
WJ Luckett says Roy Jones Jr. was never the same once he came down from heavyweight.
I think he should have never went up to heavyweight.
Yeah, this is a bit too ambitious, in my opinion. I think that he was a phenomenal middleweight. I mean, he ruled that division. He was the man to beat at that division for so long, and sometimes you bite off more than you can chew. Yeah, Frank says he lost his edge after the Tarver beatdown. Yeah, I think that took a lot out of him, man, and I think there was so much invested in that fight and so much invested between those two men in general. And when he lost the way that he did, I think, yeah, not only physically but psychologically as well.
Yeah, that was the rematch, though, right? He beat him the first time, right?
Yeah. Any excuses, Roy? Or what's your excuses tonight, Roy?
Oh man, they need to do like Mike Tyson and Roy did.
See
Have
what
like
says
that trilogy.
physiologically. Yeah. I mean, that's what I was saying in one of my other live streams that I didn't mind the Tyson Roy Jones fight. I didn't mind it, man. It reminded me of like a couple of my uncles fighting in the backyard over some girl they were trying to date in high school or some shit, you know, and you just got to clear the space and let them knuckle up, you know. And that's what it's just two old fighters that still has a fire burning inside of them, and I'm like, yeah, let's give them their credit. I didn't have a problem with it. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I think it's much better than some Jake Paul or Logan Paul bullshit, in my opinion.
Yeah. And they got a nice paycheck. They got paid for that fight, man.
Yep, definitely, definitely. Trick boxing was good. Good to see you popping by. Crenton's Cobbs, you're back in the building. Was good. So hopefully we get some more people coming into the stream. I know a lot of people or other channels have been doing live streams all day today. I saw 78 was going live earlier. So maybe some people will come on to the next show here at Divine Sense Boxing. But we'll see. We're talking about the welterweight division. We're asking who's going to be the next king of the division by the end of this year, or how do you see the future of the welterweight division going? At the moment, I think a lot is kind of leaning on the Spence Pacquiao fight and kind of seeing how that goes. So my next question for the panel is, those in the chat and for Plattboy. So let's say Pacquiao wins the fight. What then? Does Pacquiao stay and defend the titles? Does he say, well, it's been fun, guys. I captured what I wanted to capture in boxing, and I'm out of here, and vacate the titles and let the other welterweights go for it? So let's flip it here for a second. What if Pacquiao wins? How do you guys see it going down in the welterweight division?
I personally think he should do at least one defense, because you got talks of Ugas Thurman and Pacquiao was the last one to hold the belt. Ugas has, and take a shot at that. Ugas Thurman is like really intriguing to me. Chat, what do y'all think about that fight? I got Thurman in that just because Ugas is like a steel target. You know, he's strong, but I think Thurman takes that fight, and I would love to see a Thurman Pacquiao rematch for all those titles if Pac wins.
So Freddie Ruger says Crawford is the new king. You see that, Plattboy? So we got someone saying Crawford is the new king. Well, how do you feel about that, Plattboy?
I think Crawford is doing it all wrong. Like, he's been in the welterweight division for a little minute now. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it 6 or 7 fights and nobody in the top 5? Like, I don't see the new king. I respect everybody's opinion, but I would love to see him fight somebody. Porter, Thurman, Garcia. I mean, he's got to do something in welterweight. I mean, Kell Brook was past his prime. You know, you're just giving credit to the name at that point, you know, but you got to get somebody in the top 5 with a belt. I mean, I know they always talk about different sides of the street and stuff like that, but they got to make some of this happen, man. Crawford needs a fight. Like, Crawford needs a big fight. You say nobody wants to fight him. That's not his fault.
Well, to counter, Freddie says, yeah, so Freddie says nobody wants to fight him. It's not his fault. I would say that, if you want me to chime in here, I would say that's 50% accurate. I think, yes, he is a terror. I think skill-wise, he's definitely a top 2 welterweight. I mean, for me, it's between him and Spence personally. And I don't even know if I can bet on that fight, to be honest with you. That's such an intriguing fight just thinking about it. But I think some of it has to do with Crawford not managing his career properly. And that is being involved with, the promotions or the promoting team and not, I don't think he's speaking for himself enough. And he's just sitting back and letting the promoter do the talking for him, and that's a bad position to be in. And hopefully somebody can whisper in his ear and let him know that if you do that too much, then you're not going to get the fights that you need to get while you're still in your prime. And I can see Platt Boy's point. I mean, you've got all these dogs in the welterweight division, which, you know, they're legacy fights. I mean, fighting Spence is a legacy fight. Fighting possibly Pacquiao is a legacy fight. Fighting Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, is a legacy fight. So if
Yeah,
those fights
even
don't
Sean
happen
Porter.
because promoters get in the way, you got to blame a little bit of that on the fighter. So Dave's back in the chat. What's good, Dave? Dave says the new quote unquote 147 King is about to fight Cepeda, if I'm not mistaken. Sean Porter wanted to fight him. Sean Porter wants to fight everybody. Sean Porter wants to fight everybody. I respect Sean Porter for that, but he wins some, he loses some. And that fight with Ugas, I don't know. I don't know.
It was
I don't know
shady.
about that one. WJ says Crawford is Spence's biggest threat. I give Crawford the slight edge against Spence. I got no problem with it. I got no problem with that comment.
I'm
If I
straight. I'm
had a
straight
gun to
down the
my head,
middle.
I'd probably still go with. You know what? I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it. I'm not saying it. I'm not saying it because I know you motherfuckers. You're gonna hold me accountable for it. I ain't saying nothing. I'm gonna wait until after the Pacquiao Spence fight, and then I'll talk about it. Because I'll come in here and I'll give a prediction about Crawford and Spence, and guess what's gonna happen? Spence is gonna lose against Pacquiao, and I look like a dumbass. So I'm done. I'm done going against Pacquiao. Okay, I had my sweet moment when it came to Pacquiao Mayweather, and I'm good. I'm just gonna enjoy the fight as a fan.
Yeah, that's a dream fight for me. Like that's one of those fights that I'll just watch and not make a prediction.
Yep.
Spence Crawford, like it's too hard for me to pick. I'm 50-50 down the middle. Yeah, and I
It's
see
a tough fight, man. That's a really, really, really tough fight. And it's crazy because when you watch Crawford fight,
Frank is saying
when you
I
watch
can't
Crawford
let
fight, it's kind of like
my bad.
he looks unbeatable sometimes.
Frank is saying I can't let Crawford's resume pretend to be
Yeah, let me
Spence
highlight that for
resume.
Frank. Frank says I can't.
Are you talking about the 140 resume?
That's a fair
Because
point.
yeah,
That's a fair point.
Spence has a better resume, in my opinion.
What else is Freddie say? Freddie said Crawford time is here. I got a feeling Pac is going to win. Uh oh. Big Freddie. Big Freddie saying he's going for Pac. He think well maybe he's not going for Pac, but he feels like Pac's going to win. Then Pac versus TC will be made. TC for the belts. Damn, my boy Freddie's a TC fan to the tip top. To the tip top. WJ Luckett says, Divine, speak your mind. You know what I do. You know how it goes down. Leonard Thomas. So did George Foreman. But he got beat, so I can't look too far until he fights great names.
I just think Crawford hasn't been
So,
tested. in the welterweights.
the
Yeah,
interesting question for you guys. I don't know if I mean, he hasn't. That's a fact. He hasn't. And it doesn't matter how you may feel about nobody wants to fight him. I mean, at the end of the day, they haven't fought, so we can't really comment on his production at the 147-pound division, and he hasn't fought in the division yet. But I personally feel like Crawford will fight anybody. I'm not knocking Crawford, but I think that he's not handling his career properly. And as I was saying earlier, a lot of the blame can go towards promoters, no doubt about it. But some of the blame in 2021, in my opinion, has to go to the boxers, the fighters.
right.
This isn't the 60s, the 70s, and 80s and 90s when fighters are confined to their promoters and they don't have a voice and they just take fights that are given to them. And you get, situations where they'll fight, a bunch of tomato cans and taxi drivers just to keep them active. And then they're defending their titles against non-contenders. That shouldn't happen as much in 2021. Boxing politics are always going to be around. You can't avoid it. It is what it is. But fighters have much more of a voice now. We have people who has shown that, you don't need promoters to take over your career. Obviously, you have Floyd Mayweather and you have other fighters as well, not just Floyd Mayweather, but you have other fighters who say, hey, I got a promoter, cool, but like I want to fight this guy. And I don't know of any real solid interviews from Crawford himself saying, yeah, I want to fight Danny Garcia. I want to fight Keith Thurman. I want to fight Spence. I mean, he has maybe said it in passing, but I want to hear him sit down and say, look, I want some airtime. I want to let everybody know that my eyes are on the 147-pound division. I want to clean that division out, and I want to be the undisputed, you heard me? Undisputed champion at the welterweight division.
I mean, what else
and
do
right
you
now,
fight for?
Your boy Spence has got the WBC, and he's got the IBF. Spence has got the WBC and the IBF. So what's it going to be? You can only hold on to that WBO for so long. What legacy fights? I keep preaching it. Legacy fights.
Do you think
Chris Cobb says, did anybody read a letter Pacquiao's lawyer released to the WBA? They made a lot of good points.
Yeah, I didn't see that. But do you think Crawford and Spence fight wasn't made solely because of the split, the 50-50 split, or Spence asking for 60-40? I think it's more to it behind that.
Well, yeah, money always talks in boxing, unfortunately, and boxers are making more money than they ever have. There's so much money involved, and everybody wants to get their hands in the honey pot. And it's not just boxers trying to get paid. It's the promoters, it's the managers, it's the trainers, it's the cut man. It's everybody involved on the team. And it makes things complicated sometimes. But here's the biggest issue. When the promoters are not making fights possible because the promoter feels like they're not getting their cut, guess what? It's time for that promoter to go kick rocks. Because It ain't about you. It's about that man putting his life on the line. And he gets the biggest share. And he can do whatever the fuck he wants with his hard-earned money. And, it's his agreement to give a certain percentage to his trainer, to his cut man, to his manager. And if you ain't happy with it, then go promote somebody else or go manage somebody else or go be a cut man for somebody else. That's the way I feel about it. I'm a very ardent supporter of fighters being treated better and fairly. But to answer your question about the 50-50 split or the 60-40 split, to be honest with you, Plattboy, I don't got time for that bullshit, man. You got the top two welterweights in the division, okay? That should be the least of your worries of who's going to get paid more. If Crawford's sitting up there say, well, I think I'm better, and Spence's like, no, well, I've got 2 belts, I think I'm better, so I should get more. You know, I don't know if it's the fighters. I doubt it though. It's promoters maneuvering and shifting their way around, and just when here's the thing: if you make a big fight like Spence and Crawford, they know it's going to sell. They know it's going to be an extraordinary fight. So they want to make sure that they position themselves correctly and reap the benefits as much as possible.
Right.
But I guarantee you, if you put Spence and Crawford in a room together, no promoters, no managers, and you say, would you guys fight each other? They'll be like, yeah, I mean, this is what we do. This is what we do. We'll be happy to fight, not only for our legacy, but for the fans. That's the sentiment of 99% of prize fighters.
And then, like, Crawford would make more money.
Third Coast Royalty, what's good? He says ducking. I'm not sure who you're referring to.
I think he's talking about Crawford. But Crawford would make more money with Spence, where it could be 70-30, and Crawford would make more money than he made in his career in a single fight.
That's an excellent point. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a huge. I mean, you look at Pacquiao Spence. Okay, Spence beats Pacquiao. Great fight. Everybody loved it. Pacquiao probably sails off into the sunset, and we give him his praise and glory. And then the next step is Terrence Crawford. Right? So we just got done watching Spence. beat Pacquiao, a legend in the sport. And the next step would be Crawford. And if that fight isn't made, then we're in a situation like similar to Tyson Fury. Like, what's going on here? Are you ducking? I just don't understand why you wouldn't make that fight, because both promoters on both sides are like, this is the fight to make next. So I don't know. It seems to me in the 147-pound division that Spence is fighting everybody that he can possibly get his hands on. I just don't see that from Crawford. And don't get it twisted, I like Crawford a lot. I mean, he's extremely talented, and he is that guy. If Pacquiao doesn't beat Spence, then he is that guy who can beat Spence, in my opinion.
I'm 50-50. It's hard for me to choose on Spence Crawford. It just seems like the perfect matchup to me.
Hoplo says Crawford has said he wants Spence. He even confronted Spence about it. I agree, though. It's the promoters not wanting to split the pot because the fighters make the same either way. I mean, we're talking about millions here. Like, I get so frustrated, even with NBA athletes, NFL athletes. It's like they're not willing to play for a couple. Like, oh, we're gonna give you a contract for $25 million. Now I want $27 million. You don't give me $27 million, I ain't playing.
It's crazy.
It's like, well, have you lost the reasoning on why you are playing the sport that you're playing? Because there was a time when you were a kid and you entered the field and you thought about glory, you thought about legacy. You loved the sport, you love being with your teammates, you love putting on a show. And sometimes money taints the mind a little bit, especially when we're talking about millions. But in regards to Spence and Crawford, I don't think money is really the issue. I think it is promoters, because there ain't no way on this green earth that Spence is afraid of Crawford or Crawford is afraid of Spence. We're talking about two men who literally think they're the best.
Yeah.
And
That'll
don't
sell
say,
out Dallas
oh
Stadium.
well, I don't know if Spence thinks he's the best because he could have fought other people, but he's fighting a 42. Oh, for sure. And don't tell me that Spence is not confident because instead of fighting somebody else, he's fighting a 42-year-old Pacquiao. Don't give me that bullshit, okay? Because Spence was calling out Pacquiao 6 years ago when Pacquiao was still hot, when Pacquiao, was 36, 35 years old or whatever he was. And so, no, Spence is supremely confident, and so is Crawford. So nobody's ducking nobody. You can't convince me that one another are afraid of each other. And that's just my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.
Scholar says Pacquiao all day just to experience. But Scholar, I mean, I'm about 55-45 on Spence. Talent wise, I think they're even, but I think the age is going to kick in. I think about round 6, Spence is just going to have his way.
So you think age is a factor?
I think so. I mean, he's definitely not your normal 42-year-old. You know what I mean? But I mean, just show me an example of when age didn't kick in for someone, for a boxer like at that age.
All right, prediction time. Put in the live chat who you got in Pacquiao Spence, and I want rounds. I don't want, maybe this person or maybe that person. I want rounds. Who do you got and what round? Let's go. This is what we do. This is what we love boxing for. Talk about fights, make predictions. You guys hear me talk about it. You guys hear Blue Blood talk about it. You hear 78 talk about it. You hear Champ Side talk about it. Whoever else is talking about it. So who do you got? Be bold. I want to see it. First man up is Frank. Frank says he's got Spence in 7. I'm guessing TKO, obviously TKO KO, but he's got Spence in 7.
Who believes it's going to be like a brutal knockout? Because I'm thinking it's going to be he's going to get worked down, knockout in the 10th round. Black Superman says corner stoppage in round 9. You think he's going to give up on the seat? I don't think that's Pacquiao. I think he'll push through that.
I said in my prediction video, if you haven't watched that already, I said Spence by unanimous decision. I think that Pacquiao will give a good enough fight. And I think that the one thing that he has that I think he'll be able to sustain is his durability. And he'll have moments in the fight, but it'll just be too clear cut for Spence. And that's hard for me to say because Pacquiao doesn't lose decisions very often. He lost to Mayweather by decision, but when you look at his losses, he was knocked out by Marquez, but he usually gets the nod and when it comes to decisions. So that's what makes it a little bit of a strange prediction. But I just think that if Spence can hurt Pacquiao, which I think he will in the middle rounds, a possible knockdown. I think there might be a possible knockdown, but definitely will hurt Pacquiao. I think his volume will drop, and he'll be a little bit more careful. Won't go as quick and fast because I can see Spence dropping Pacquiao was something that Pacquiao doesn't see as he jumps in with his, his awkward combinations. And then after that, Pacquiao will be like, okay, and he'll cover up more and then try to just land a left hand to try to even out the fight. And I think ultimately he'll go 12. But that's my prediction.
Yeah. Black Superman says, I don't think he'll quit. I'm thinking his corner will throw in the towel, though. Man. I mean, you got a unique perspective, Superman. I think it's gonna just be a drop. I think it's just gonna be a ninth round. Like Dave agrees with me. We got the same round. I'm going knockout 10th round.
It's the winners train losers complain LDBC. The men in suits are the ones that stopping Crawford and Spence. And
Right on.
They're stopping it. And who wins? Dave says he's got Spence. I got Spence. And if I had to pick a round, it'll be round 10. Black Superman says, I don't think he'll quit. I'm thinking his corner will throw the towel in, though. I don't see Freddie throwing in the towel, man. Not for Manny Pacquiao. For another fighter in his stable, maybe. But I just don't see. I don't see Freddie. Nah, not Manny Pacquiao.
That'd be a hell of a way to go out. Throwing the towel, that'll be his last fight if that happens.
Pull counter, what's good, man? Good to see you.
Third coach
Pull
EJ,
counter, another legend on YouTube, has been part of my channel.
Skylar says Pacquiao by split decision.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who picks so here's my thing. I got Spence by decision, as I said earlier. My alternate choice would be late round stoppage as well, but I'm going to stick with my original prediction, which will be this the decision. Now, I did state in my official breakdown prediction video that's on my channel that I wanted to see a little bit more from the fight camps leading up to the fight. It may alter my decision a little bit, depending on how good Spence looks. I know there's already been a little bit of footage, but as we get close to the fight, we're going to see closer to, in fight shape. I mean, they're always in shape, but, really in shape for the fight. And I may change my prediction a little bit, but obviously, if I feel like Spence is looking sharp and good, I'll probably lean more towards a late round stoppage. But what I wanted to say was, for anybody who thinks Pacquiao is going to win the fight, I mean, I get it. If Pacquiao does win the fight, it'll probably be a decision or a close split decision or possibly even a draw. We can't keep a draw out of a possibility here.
Yeah,
because again, you look at Pacquiao's career, there's a lot of split decisions.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a surprise to me if Pacquiao wins, Freddie. But I mean, Spence is strong. He's so versatile, man. I don't see Spence dropping. He may hurt him, but I don't think he drops.
Yeah, Frank says, any thoughts on the car wreck taking any of Spence's edge anymore? I haven't heard anything. I mean, Spence himself continues to say that he's fine, he's feeling good. So we just have to take his word for it, I guess. But I haven't heard any official report saying that, he's slower or his body took damage or he can't throw punches the same anymore. But I personally think that he's more or less recovered. But we're going to find out pretty quick. come fight night. And I hope to God if Spence loses the fight, I hope he doesn't use the accident as an excuse. And the reason I say that is because he's the one that's been going around saying that he feels great, he feels fine. So we're gonna know soon enough.
Yeah, I got a lot of respect for Danny Garcia,
And yeah, so
and I
yeah,
think
go ahead.
I think Spence washed him. So I mean, after the car wreck, so I think that kind of solved it for me. I don't think the car wreck is an issue anymore. The way he beat Danny Garcia.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about Danny as well. I did put him in the thumbnail of this video, so I do want to give him some credit and talk about him a little bit, and possibly a little about. We talked about Keith Thurman a little bit, but I may throw him in here a little bit before we end this live. But winners train losers just did say that good point draw is not out of the question. It's not only the fact that the possibility of the fight being really close is actually a very high possibility that the fight's going to be extremely close, and it can be, a similar situation to what we saw with Marquez, except Earl Spence could possibly do more damage, like to the body, and Spence has that ability to ooh and awe the crowd because he just hits so hard for a welterweight. So there, I can see it exchanging moments, or I can see Spence winning 3 or 4 rounds, and then Pacquiao goes crazy and wins 2 or 3 rounds. And so, not only the fact that it's probably going to be a very close fight, but also who knows what the judge, or not the judges, but the referee, how the referee is going to ref the fight. That's going to mean a lot as well. But neither fighter, now that I think about it, holds very much. Pacquiao usually complains about fighters always trying to hold him because Pacquiao is always trying to get off his punches. And to recent memory, I don't remember Earl Spence being someone who likes to hold on. And usually if he's a little bit of trouble, he uses his feet to get him out of a bad situation.
Yeah, he cuts
with
off
those
the
2
ring
points
well.
made, I mean, it's a recipe for fireworks.
Pull counter boxing. Spencer's going to test Pacquiao's conditioning. He knows,
So,
man.
talking a little bit
42.
about
Pull counter. I'm with you on that one.
yeah, for sure. I mean,
strength and conditioning. Yeah.
yeah, I'm kind of just teleporting to Spence's fight camp and sitting down with his team, and I can imagine that the game plan is to, of course, be sharp, be smooth, use your boxing ability, but attack the body, and force Manny Pacquiao to feel like he's in the fight because it seems like it's toe to toe, but those body punches will accumulate over time, and it's going to really test his endurance and his fitness at 42 years old. And those body punches add up in the 6th, 7th, 8th round. And I don't think Pacquiao can catch Earl Spence the way that he caught Thurman, because Thurman has a tendency to, backpedal with his hands down, and he's got his chin up in the air. And that's actually why he got dropped in, what was it, like the 2nd round or 3rd round or something like that. And he also has a tendency to try to backpedal out of a problem with his hands down. And that's why he took a vicious body shot from Manny Pacquiao. And you got to rewind the tape and remember when Keith Thurman took a nasty body shot from Collazo as well.
Yeah.
And he nearly went down in that fight. I don't see Earl Spence exposing his body like that. His defense is underrated, in my opinion. It's going to be interesting to see if Pacquiao can get past Earl Spence's defense, because it's not only his tight defense with a good guard, but also he counter punches very well. And a counter punch is part of a defensive arsenal, not offensive. I mean, you can turn it into offense, but usually when you counter punch is because you're being defensive. So it's going to be interesting to see if Pacquiao can break through that counter punching ability and that really tight, strong guard that Earl Spence fights with.
Yeah, if Pacquiao wins, it's going to be all about his movement in the later rounds. And when you were talking about Thurman, don't forget that.
So Frank says, when Spence kept Mickey at range all night, or Mikey, sorry. Yeah, that's true too. That's very true too. Going off of Frank's point here, so when Spence kept Mikey at range all night with jabs, he can keep Pacquiao away with jabs too. Absolutely. I mean, 100%, no doubt about it. One thing that I will say right now, for the record, Spence's jab will be better and more effective than Pacquiao's jab. And Pacquiao's jab has improved over the years because he used to have like pretty much a non-existent jab back in his early days. And he basically had no right hook. It was just all get inside, cut the distance off really quickly, land the left hand. And because he was so awkward and fast, he was able to get away with it. But as he moved up in weight divisions and facing much more credible opponents, he had to develop that jab and get better with that. And he started to improve a little bit around the Cotto fight, because I think, Freddie Roach told him, like, Cotto is very good with the jab, and we need to, jab back with Cotto. And also the fact that Cotto is, I believe, left-handed, but he fights orthodox. So his strong hands up in front. So I think from that fight, Pacquiao has evolved, but still, when I go back and watch Spence's fights, I mean, for a southpaw, Spence's jab is ruthless. Absolutely ruthless jab. And not only is it a penetrating jab, but it's a jab that can set up his punches.
Hook to the body, hook to the head. And Spence has like a 5-inch reach advantage.
And God forbid, yeah, I mean, generally speaking, on paper, you got a height advantage, you got a reach advantage. All those tail the tape type details usually favor the bigger fighter, but not always. And especially against Pac. I mean, Pac is pretty much smaller than everyone that he fights. So I don't think he's worried about someone being 5'9.5" or 5'10", and he's only 5'6" or whatever he is. I think that's the least of his worries. If Pacquiao has any worries, it's I have to fight a southpaw who I haven't fought in 13 years, and I'm fighting a very young, strong champion in his prime who has punching power. I think that's what Pacquiao is worried about. I don't think he's worried about the height or the range or the length. They've planned many different game plans as a team to fight taller, rangier fighters. But if you're Spence, yeah, definitely use that length to your advantage, aka the jab, and yeah, utilize it. You're going to have to. I do also. I was thinking about this the other night. I can see Pacquiao jumping on Spence very early. I can see the first round kind of being a fill-out round, and once Pacquiao can can kind of feel out that southpaw stance, and he feels like, okay, he doesn't move like Thurman does. Okay, he's
Right.
standing there, he's jabbing me a lot, and Pacquiao's not he's not bad with he's not bad with head movement. He's going to bob and weave. He's going to feel it out. But I think he knows at 42 years old, there's no point of me trying to outbox Spence because he'll just take me into deep waters. So I can see Pacquiao jumping on Spence around 2-3 and just start to empty the tank and just try to land something big, try to hurt Spence early, and put Spence in a place where he hasn't really been yet before.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, if I'm Freddie Roach, that would be my game plan personally. At 42 years old, I'm like, look, go out there round one, round two, feel the range, get comfortable with the southpaw position, and jump on his ass. Make him cover up. Force him to cut off the ring. Force him to pivot and get out of danger and make him uncomfortable. And, you're basically training for a 6-round fight.
Right. You better have your popcorn for rounds 3 through 6. But making Spence feel uncomfortable, I haven't seen, like, he fights so straight face. Like, you can't tell when he's hurt. He hides it really, really well. So, mind games, I don't know if you can get through Spence, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're Pacquiao, right, and you're planning for this fight, you really only have two options. Option A is let's feel the fight out. Let's box with Spence. Let's use our expertise. Let's use our experience. Let's show the world that I'm not just a puncher and I can box too. I've been in there with Mayweather and other really good fighters. I've learned a lot, even at 42, and I'm going to show the world that I can stand toe-to-toe with Earl Spence. Okay, that's option one. And option two is, as I said, I'm 42 years old. I've been in a lot of wars. This guy's young. He's strong. I know he's got power. If I let him dictate the pace, if I let him walk me down, if I let him use his range and allow him to throw big power shots to the body, I'm going to be in trouble. So I'm going to jump on his ass. I'm just going to swarm him. I'm going to be Manny Pacquiao of old. I'm going to remind people of who I am and why have been put in this position. And I'm going to bob and weave my way in and try to cut off the ring. And the thing is that Spence is one of the best as far as, cutting off the ring and pivoting in and out of punches. We mentioned that earlier. But Pacquiao, man, when the history books are written, Pacquiao was going to be mentioned as someone who can just figure out a way to jump at angles and make fighters uncomfortable when they're trying to move around a boxing ring. Offensively, not defensively, but offensively, Pacquiao is one of the best to ever do it when it comes to going forward effectively. And even in the Mayweather fight, he made Mayweather uncomfortable at times, and Mayweather had to adjust. So the question is, can Spence adjust? Now, his boxing pedigree says that he can. His 3-time national championships and the fact that he's the WBC champion and IBF champion says that he can adjust. But we're going to have to find out.
This fight is so intriguing, man. It's wild. I can't wait.
Master Storm, what's good? You're back. Man, Porter gave him a lot of problems, and Spence barely knocked him down. Pac-Man will win off points if Spence can't get a knockdown. Okay, so we got someone else coming in here, Plattboy, saying Pacquiao might win this one.
Okay, let's look at this. I like that perspective, but remember, in the Thurman fight that Thurman closed the gap the last 5 rounds. I think the flash knockdown was too much for Thurman to overcome. But if Pacquiao doesn't get a knockdown, I don't think he can outbox Spence at this point in his career. Great comment though, Master Storm. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think about that, Master Form? What do you think about Platt Boy's comment there? Do you? I mean, whoever gets a knockdown is going to get the momentum. I mean, let's just put it that way. I mean, that's normally how boxing works.
Right.
But I got to say it again, Platt Boy. I got to do it. How many times have we seen Pacquiao in fights where he knocks fighters down and they come back, or Pacquiao gets hurt and he comes back? When you think the fight's over, this fight's over, and it turns the tide.
Yeah, that's why he is who he is, man. Pacquiao's, I mean, he just has that grit, man. Like he doesn't quit at all. It's like he's the same fighter from round 1 to round 12, man. Just full of energy.
When he has that, when you ever noticed, I'm sure you did, Pacquiao has this thing where when he gets hurt, he pounds his gloves together. It's kind of like, come on then, bitch. You hurt me, let's go. Kind of mentality. And that's who you're dealing with.
Man.
This is who Spence is dealing with, man. He's going to deal with the guy where, I mean, if you hurt him, he's going to be like, all right, I want more, And Pacquiao, that's the one thing, even as an older fighter, when the water starts coming up, past the chin and you're about to drown, you got to dig deep, and you got to kick those feet and swing those arms and swim to the shore. And Pacquiao has shown to do that many times. So if you're Spence, you gotta keep your foot on the gas and stay composed, because that's what happens sometimes when you see a younger fighter fight an older fighter, is they hurt the older fighter and they get too confident.
Yeah, try to bulldoze.
And if he knocks down Pacquiao and Pacquiao gets up and Spence and then Spence doesn't stay composed and just starts throwing wild shots and just trying to finish the show, Pacquiao's able to cover up and take it. That then shifts the momentum to Pacquiao, because Pacquiao's like, okay, he hurt me, but he couldn't finish me. Right. I'm coming for him. He just used a lot of energy trying to knock me out, and he couldn't. We all know, as boxing fans, boxing's mental, man. I would argue it's 70, 80% mental.
Look at Dr. Hook's comment right there.
Dr. Hook. I think the judges were being generous to Thurman. I don't think it was close to being a split decision. I think Pacquiao won the fight. I will say that, but I personally didn't have a problem with the split decision. Thurman definitely did win, at least, if I remember correctly how I scored it. I think he won at least 4 rounds. I think he won a solid 4 rounds, possibly even 5.
Yeah, they were like 7 through 12.
I mean, that's just my personal thoughts on it. And Thurman definitely had some successful moments.
Yeah, 7 through 12, I give to Thurman, with the 10th round being split with that body shot Pacquiao landed on him.
Well, Master Storm, he counters and says with Pac-Man 34% to Thurman's 43%, power punches landed. But what's a power punch? How would you classify a power punch from Pacquiao? Because I just feel like he's like a little Tasmanian devil. I don't know what a power punch is sometimes. I always feel like he's trying to knock someone out. Because I don't think that Pacquiao was methodical with his punches for the most part. He's got better with that over the years, but even the Keith Thurman fight, he wasn't able to put a lot of punches together against Keith Thurman because Keith Thurman was moving quite a lot. And there was a moment in the fight where I think Pacquiao was hurt a little bit. Can't remember which round that was, maybe like 8 or 9. And Thurman then started walking Pacquiao down. And there was a bit of a momentum shift there. But then Pacquiao kind of came back. And that's the thing, man. I'm telling you, I'm not bent for this fight because I've had enough of Pacquiao. I've had enough of it.
Yeah, I'm not. No bet coming from me on this fight. It's hard to bet against Pacquiao. I am predicting Spence 10th round KO, but I wouldn't dare put money on it. And it wouldn't surprise me if Pacquiao won the fight.
Yeah, and so before we get off this live, I think I'm going to go for another 10 minutes or so. I wanted to talk a little bit about Danny Garcia. We've kind of left him in the dark unintentionally, but I would just want to say that Danny has always been one of my favorite fighters in the welterweight division. I've always enjoyed watching him. I think that he brings a different element to the welterweight division. He reminds me of a very old school fighter with his boxing stance and the way he throws his punches and just being tough. He reminds me of the boxers, from the 40s and 50s with his Puerto Rican, New York, old school style. And I like that for boxing. And he's kind of like a monkey wrench in the welterweight division. Because anytime Danny gets into the ring with any welterweight, even if you think that, Spence has the edge, or Sean Porter has a slight edge, or Terrence Crawford will have a slight edge, or whatever, is that little thing in the back of your head, at least for me, with Danny Garcia, as a right-handed fighter, he probably has the best left hook in the welterweight division. And we've seen, what that left hook can do. Hasn't been as effective at 147, but still, stylistically, he's great for the division. And I would like to see him fight somebody. We were talking earlier about Crawford and Spence, and will Spence and Crawford fight if Spence beats Pacquiao? But in the meantime, I wouldn't mind seeing a Crawford Danny Garcia.
I would love it.
Or let him mix it up with Sean Porter again or whatever. But I think we need to get Danny Garcia back into the ring, and just because he's taken a few losses doesn't, or it shouldn't, hurt his credibility as a top 5 welterweight, in my opinion.
Right. But at least he's fighting them. That's where I'm coming with the Crawford issue. Crawford needs to fight somebody in the top 5. Like, we have no measuring stick. That's, to gauge his potential, like, in this division. And Danny, speaking on jumping off what you were talking about with Danny, like, in my opinion, if he loses again, he's like a gatekeeper to me. I don't know what you think about that.
That's a fair assessment. Well, sometimes you have to play your role in boxing, and gatekeepers sometimes can shock the world. We've seen it many times in boxing history where, a guy moves up the ranks, wins a belt or two, maybe gets knocked down a few notches, and then finally gets an opportunity to, do a rematch or something, and then wins the fight, and everybody's like, ah, shit, this guy again. Danny is kind of like that guy in the welterweight division. He's earned his right to be there. He may be slightly behind as far as skill, but at any given moment, he can just shock people, and he's like the thorn in your side in the welterweight division.
Yeah, he definitely has knockout power. He can
He's kind
catch
of like
somebody.
he's kind of like he's oh, for sure, for sure. And anytime you have that old school style like that, it's just he hits people and they don't even see it. Sometimes he connects with like that left hook that I was talking about, and the opponent's reaction is like, where the fuck did that come from? And he just got that windmill old school style. And I'm a boxing historian. I love that old school style. I think that it's kind of been pushed out of boxing a little bit with this new modern era, but still, it's great. He kind of reminds me. I think a good comparison would be he's similar to like uh, the Wizards in basketball. When they got Bradley Beal and Westbrook, they're
Yeah,
super good. They got talent, but they just don't quite make it. That's kind of Danny Garcia.
he shouldn't move up to 154. I think he can actually beat some of the top guys at 154. Not like Charlo, but Jared Hurd. I think he can give who was the guy that beat Jamel and Jamel came back on him? Harrison. I think he can give Harrison some problems.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably going to be the next live stream. I'm going to talk about the middleweight division, talk about the Charlos. I think there's still some interesting sidebar conversations in the middleweights and the super welterweights at 154, 160. I know a lot of people are wondering, Charlo's ever going to move up? Are they going to try to capture other weight classes? Are they going to stay there, unify the titles? So there's a lot of discussion there with the Charlos, and we'll definitely chop it up about that and maybe work our way up back into the heavyweight division. Hopefully, with enough time passed, we're going to have a clearer idea of what's going to happen with the heavyweight division. I can't help but I told myself this morning when I woke up, I said, you know what, I'm not gonna look at anything Tyson Fury or Wilder. I refuse it. I refuse to do it because I've been talking about it for so long. But after I get my coffee and settle down, somebody will have a video up, and I just can't resist.
Yeah,
And it just sends me in further disappointment to see the heavyweight division in this situation. And I was watching an interview. Somebody was interviewing Ruiz, and I kind of had a thought pop in my head, like, as much as I want Wilder to fight Fury because I believe he deserves his vengeance, I just miss heavyweight boxing, man. You know,
yes,
I want to
sir.
see a good heavyweight fight, rather it's Ruiz or White or Wilder or Joshua. At this point, I don't give a flying monkey's ass if I see Fury, to be quite honest, unless he's fighting Wilder and getting knocked out. Otherwise, I don't want to see Fury in the ring. He doesn't deserve any accolades or any positive energy from anyone, considering how he's been acting. But I just miss some good heavyweight. It's been a while, man, since we had a good heavyweight boxing match. And I was thinking, you got guys like Ruiz and White just sitting there waiting for an opportunity. And here we are getting stretched and abused
Right.
by fucking Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. And it's sad.
Let me ask you this: Did it shake you when Ruiz went down his last fight?
Try not to. Yeah, go ahead. What's that? Did it shake me?
Yeah, I was like kind of stunned when he went down, like because of how good he looked, the weight he lost. I was like, oh man, he's ready for this fight. And then what I think it was what second or third round, he got dropped. I was like, no way, man. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised. I was a little bit surprised, but at the same time, it's kind of like, he. I don't think he was ready for the stardom. To be quite honest with you, I think he was a bit starstruck and wasn't really training the way he should have trained. And it happens in boxing. I definitely do think that he has the ability to bounce back. And that's one thing that I've always appreciated about Wilder is, he's been in the limelight for quite some time because he knocks people out. And Tyson had that same effect. Everybody was talking about Mike Tyson in the late 80s and early 90s. And when you're a knockout artist like that, I mean, you're almost invincible, and Deontay has been in that category for quite some time, and he's handled it pretty well, as a champion and, defending his title and, him fighting Ortiz twice, to me, speaks volumes because I don't see anybody else fighting Ortiz.
Yeah, I would have
I
never
don't see any
given
other
Ortiz a
heavyweight,
rematch.
trying to be as active as Wilder was. 100%. Like he had no reason, or he didn't have to at least give Ortiz a rematch. He did it because, he felt like that was the right thing to do. And he wants to give the fans what they want to see. And, he knows and he believes in his power. And he knows when people tune into a Deontay Wilder fight, they're expecting a knockout. And that's what he
Absolutely.
does. He tries to knock out his opponents, other than that one time when the first fight against Bermain Servine, where he boxed. And everybody got so upset. It was like, why is he boxing? We don't want to watch him box, even though the media was crushing him for over a year for not boxing. They
Yeah,
kept
he only
saying,
has one
this guy
punch.
can't box.
Right.
All he's got is a right hand. So Wilder said, okay, there was a time when, I did go to the Olympics and won a fucking bronze medal. You guys forgot about that. So I'm going to show you guys that I can box. And so he did it. And then they flipped it on him again saying, yo, why are you boxing? Well, because you fucking told me to. You said I couldn't
Exactly.
box. So then he's like, you know what? Fuck him. I'm just going to start knocking people out again. And both fights, obviously the rematch against Servine, totally dismantled him.
Ragnarok.
It was
It was crazy.
like it wasn't even fair almost on how bad he beat him. So you're trying to convince me that or the Fury fans were trying to convince me that the third fight it was going to be worse than the second fight? I don't think so, man. Unless you're telling me Fury's going to knock Wilder out, which we all know that ain't going to happen. So there's no way you can convince me that the second fight was going to be worse. If anything, maybe a little bit similar, where Fury tries to walk him down again and bully him and maul him and wear him down. I can see that happening, but
Yeah.
there's no way it's going to be worse than the second fight. Because every time Wilder has rematched someone, he comes out better, stronger, more prepared. And that's what pisses me off about the critics when it comes to Deontay Wilder. They act as if he's just some wild animal who has a right hand, and that's all he is. It's like, what do you want the man to do? You want him to do backflips? You want him to sing the national anthem before the fight starts, so you can give him a little bit of credibility for having other skills. I mean, what else do you
Right.
want the man to do?
I've only seen him throw wild punches when he hurts someone. Like I don't get where they, say he can't box or is a one trick pony, because he only gets crazy after he crashes someone like they're about to fall. That's when he gets crazy.
Yeah, for sure. See a few people in the comment section talk about Jared Anderson. Well, I think it was confirmed in my last live stream that Jared Anderson, what did he knock down Fury or knock him out? Somebody said that he knocked him out standing or something like that. Well, I mean, I think that tells you enough of the type of fighter that Jared's going to be. I think he's going to be a good fighter, and I'm looking forward to him being in some decent fights coming up. And somebody mentioned too that he unfollowed Fury or something like that, or he blocked Fury on social media after he fucking knocked his ass out in sparring. You can't make this shit up, man.
Man.
Somebody hit up my boy Jared Anderson. My boy Jared. My boy Jared, he ruined the fight for us. Hey, Moped, Master Storm, yo, hit up Jared. Yo, he ruined the fight for us. He knocked out Fury in sparring, and Fury got COVID. He knocked the. I can't believe. I mean, I mentioned it. I mentioned it. I mentioned it in my my other live stream. It reminded me of when Mike Tyson, I think he was preparing for Lennox Lewis, yeah, and he got knocked out by a sparring partner, and it kind of leaked through, the media about a week before the fight, and everyone started having their doubts. They're like, shit, Tyson got knocked out in sparring, and I don't think he's gonna last. I don't think he's gonna, because before that, there were still people giving Tyson a chance in that fight.
Right.
But if that would have happened in 2021, Tyson probably would have said, Mike Tyson, that is, he would have said, "Oh, I got COVID." He said, "I got COVID. I got knocked down sparring. I got COVID now."
Yeah, that same conversation was had, like Dave says in the chat, when AJ lost to Reeves.
Heard similar rumors right before AJ lost to release that AJ got knocked out in sparring?
Yeah, that was a rumor going around. Like a week before the fight or 2 weeks before the fight.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember some rumblings about that. Yeah. I remember some rumblings about that.
AJ denied it, though.
Dr. Hook says, "I want to see the trilogy, but unfortunately time is not on Wilder's side. He has a birthday coming up, 36. Eric Howell says the fight might not actually happen. Yeah, Danny's dad was talking about it. I'm wondering if Fury needs the COVID excuse to cycle out PEDs. And there's so many theories out there on why he said he got COVID. Cycle PEDs, he got knocked out in sparring. He tried to ride a tricycle and he fell down and broke his ankle. Out there looking like fucking Conor McGregor with a broken foot. I heard that too. Somebody said that shit. I saw that he fell down and hurt his leg. No shit.
But if the fight,
I'm hearing all kinds of crazy shit.
If the fight doesn't happen, doesn't he have to retire?
A lot of people were saying that. That may be a part of the arbitration or what was written. I don't think it's in the contract, but it may have been one of the requirements from the judge.
Yeah, or at least vacate
saying that I think there was a maximum date of which. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing though. This is what makes it compelling is that he supposedly has COVID, right? So all his team has to do is say, like, look, he's got lung inflammation. He's got the new Delta Alpha Beta variant. He's got all the variants mixed up. He's got the worst variant
Yeah, they're gonna make it
known,
sound as worse
and
as
so
possible. So,
we don't know what's going to happen. We got to push this fight. Exactly. So they're going to go to the judge and say, look, it's out of our hands. And then in that case, we don't know what's going to happen because, when it comes to COVID, I mean, you guys remember last year in the States, people were losing their businesses, they're losing their homes, people can't pay rent. So that's how far courts are willing to take COVID. So we don't know what's going to happen if they try to ride that train. He may recover and say, oh, I've got long-term lung damage. So, I'm not going to be able to fight until next year possibly. But without COVID, because I don't think the judge was, when he wrote the requirements of the arbitration, I doubt he was thinking, oh, well, what happens if Fury gets COVID? Should I put that in there? Of course he's not going to fucking think about that.
right.
Because why would you? Why would a world-class athlete like Tyson Fury put himself in the position to possibly get fucking COVID? Right? So now that nothing has been written in there about COVID, they're definitely going to use that to their advantage. And so, yeah, either if the judge tries to force him and say, well, this is what needs to happen, then Fury will probably just retire and vacate the title. And if he does that, then, in my opinion, COVID or not, no COVID, I don't give a flying monkey's ass. He is the worst representation of heavyweight boxing of all time.
Yeah. And Master Storm, even if he vacates the title, AJ already said he doesn't want to fight him without the title. He said it's about the belt, not the person, so it's he doesn't have anywhere to go if he vacates.
And Moped says, well, Wilder versus AJ is the fight that needs to happen. One thing that I will recommend Wilder and his camp, if I could recommend anything, if I had the opportunity to recommend anything, is whatever you decide to do, as much as I want to see you get your retribution and your revenge, that's the priority. But if for whatever reason it seems out of reach and Fury keeps running, never take a step backwards. Take a step forward. And that means that, you have to fight somebody that's going to continue to increase your legacy in a positive light, which, would be AJ or a Ruiz, or really even a White. I mean, I'm fine with that as well. But something for a title, something for recognition, something to put in Fury's face and say, you ducked, you ran, you're a coward, and I fought the fighters that you wouldn't fight, and all the above, basically, right? So not only did you run from me, but also these fighters who I just now beat. And Fury's legacy will drop massively. Massively. If that's what happens. And that's the way you got to look at it if you're Wilder. If push comes to shove, if I can't get you in the ring, I'm going to beat everybody that you avoided to fight. And even if you go and fight him later and beat him, it doesn't matter because I beat him first. Because that's how boxing is sometimes. It's who beats him first.
Hawker Mustang says, I think Tyson Fury will retire after he knocks Deontay clean out. You're talking about like one punch knockout? Or I don't think Tyson has that in him.
Don't worry about Hawker Mustang. He is a legendary troll. of Divine Sense Boxing. Hawker Mustang and I have an extensive history. He is my Joker to my Batman. So just leave him be in the comment section and just let him float along. Dr. Hook, you said, bro, you need to collaborate with Ness over at Boxing Voice. He is asking for other content creators to do so. He said it doesn't matter how large or small their channel is. For real? That's interesting. Okay then. I don't know the best way to hit him up. If you know the best way to hit him up, let me know. Once upon a time, you can actually message people on YouTube. I don't know if you guys knew that, but you can actually inbox people in YouTube, and that was really good feature that YouTube used to have. So you can just directly message people, but they took that away when YouTube took over.
Yeah, that's how I tried to reach you and saw that they took it away. Yeah.
But yeah. So okay, I'll go through his social media outlets or send him an email or something and try to make something happen. So this is the first time of hopefully many times that I'll bring somebody on myself like Plattboy, and there's also a few other people that have emailed me and asked to come on and chop it up. And it's good. It's good to have another voice on the panel, and gives me a little bit of a break from speaking sometimes as well, which is always good. Yeah. And it's always good to have a little bit of different thoughts and stuff like that. And for those of you who have stayed this entire time, I think there's some of you in here, at least a couple of you have been here since we first started this live. Big appreciation, big respect. Really does truly show how much you love the sport and how much you love to listen to someone who is unbiased and, cuts it straight down the middle and tries to be as truthful and honest as possible. And that's how I try to conduct it over here.
Yes, that's pretty amazing.
Boxing. So just to give everyone here a heads up about a few things, just to give everyone a bit of a heads up here for those who are still a part of the live stream. And of course, this video will be uploaded as a normal upload once it's all said and done. I have a lot of cool stuff coming out here in the future. I'm going to bring up some all-time greats. I know I've said that many, many times, but I do have it in the vault, and I will bring it out and try to get a conversation about, some fantasy matchups and let you guys know who my all-time favorite fighter or fighters are, and get people on here to talk about their favorite fighters and why they are your favorite fighter. And that's always been an interesting topic of mine. And also, I want to give a special shout out to Frank Sparty, who's in here in the chat, who's actually been a part of this live stream today, as he always is, sometimes for more than an hour. I'm going to start calling him Endurance Frank. He officially became the first Patreon to the channel. And I really do appreciate the support and love, Frank. I've actually sent you a message there on Patreon, Frank. So make sure you go on there and read it. And for those of you who don't know about Patreon, basically Patreon is a platform that you can go and support your favorite channels and do a small donation to the channel. And you also reap benefits for donating. And in this case, in Frank's case in particular, he's going to get special access to a private Facebook group page for all Patreons, and also on Telegram chat group as well, and also get special exclusive videos that I will not release on YouTube. And it won't only be about boxing, but it'll also be about my world travels, at places that I've been to in over 15 years, and the experiences I've had also as a boxing trainer, as a cut man, working with fighters behind the scenes type stuff like that. So there's a couple tiers on there. The more you donate, the more you get. So go and check it out. I will put the link in the description box. And yeah, feel free to continue to support the channel. But regardless of the effort that you put in, big respect as always. And it's been a pleasure today, night for me, actually, where I'm at in the world. It's been a pleasure being with you guys and chopping up about the sport that we love. And I'll be looking forward to chopping up with you guys again soon. And of course, big thanks to Plattboy for sitting here, chopping it up with me and being the first official guest on Divine Sense Reborn / Divine Sense Boxing. And so big ups to you too, bro.
Yeah, thank you, man. It was a wonderful opportunity. I appreciate it. I'm going to jump on that Patreon too, man. I want to be a supporter, you know. I hope everybody else jump on the train, baby. Divine Sense cuts it right down the middle, and I enjoy watching his shows, his live streams, all his videos. And you know, this was my first time ever doing a box talk. I watch a lot of them, and I just got intrigued when I saw yours. So you inspired me to jump in and do this with you. And Chad, I hope I was good enough for y'all, man. This is my first try at it. If you want to find me on socials, it's PlattboyGaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. I'm a gaming content creator, and I go live, you know, almost every day. So if y'all want to hit me with a subscribe on my YouTube or any of the platforms, feel free. And let me know you came over from Divine when you see me live. And, you know, I appreciate the opportunity, man. Thank you, Divine.
Yeah, no doubt, bro. And I'm just now putting the link into the Patreon in the chat. So I think if I put something in the chat, it may go straight to the top, but nonetheless, that's the link. And you may have to go for you, Plattboy, because you're here in the studio with me. You may have to go to the YouTube video itself to click the link.
Oh, I'm already in. I copy the paste, babe.
Thanks, Frank, once again. And Moped is asking for your
Twitch link. Okay, give me a second.
All right, perfect. And Moped is asking for a Twitch link as well. So Moped, he'll hit you up. Thanks, Eric. I know you've been joining a lot of the live streams lately. I appreciate your support. Consider being a Patreon, man. I think you guys will be pleasantly surprised with the exclusive content outside of YouTube that I will provide. I know I don't really speak too much about my personal experiences and the things that I've learned over the years that are quite intriguing because I try to keep it boxing here. But I will maybe give some teasers if that's what people are looking for. I'll drop some teasers maybe later this week of what you could potentially get when you become a Patreon. All right, so Plattboy, did you hit up Moped?
Yeah, I dropped the link in chat right there.
All right, perfect. All right, guys. So once again, thanks for stopping by. And if I'm not live soon, I'll be dropping videos, as I said. And I'll think about some clever ways to do some teasers of what you could possibly get if you become a Patreon. But nonetheless, guys, just subscribing to the channel means an enormous amount to me. And hopefully I can collaborate with some of these bigger channels out here to give a different perspective. And yeah, I try to be a unique voice. It's one thing that I try to do and try to be a little bit different. And the most important thing is to drop that boxing knowledge and be able to have the voice to do it. So that's the ultimate goal. Yep. All right, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off here. This video will be uploaded up on YouTube once everything's said and done. If you ever want to go back and listen to anything, or if you came in later, we've been live now for almost 2 hours. So if you want to go back later and listen to the whole thing, then it'll be up. All right, guys. So final salute. I'm out. Peace and love. Be good out there. Stay safe. Accomplish your goals. Strength and honor. Later.
Take it easy, guys.